This is Dr. Derek, and this is our second recording for this week, week 2, attraction. For this recording, we're going to be talking about similarity in behavior. You should already have watched the recording for similarity in personality. So, not only can people be similar in terms of demographics, values and attitudes, and personality, they can also be similar in terms of behavior. One example that we'll be using for class today is alcohol use. We know that men and women tend to be similar to each other in terms of alcohol use. Heavy drinking men are more likely to pair up with heavy drinking women than might be expected from base rates of heavy drinking in the population. And so, one question here is whether this is good or bad for their relationships. First, we know that newlyweds tend to be concordant for drinking status. In other words, they tend to be similar. But just as I spoke about in the previous lecture, the extent of the similarity shouldn't be overemphasized. Even though we say that they tend to be alike, you'll see this is less apparent than you might expect. If we talk about just any alcohol use, we can see in this case that neither partner drinks in approximately 63 of these couples, and both partner drinks in 473 of these couples. And so together, that neither and both are more than the wife only or the husband only. So we would say that they tend to be concordant for alcohol use here. We can also look at regular drinking. So this is people who drink on a regular basis. You can see that, again, we have 151 where neither partner drinks regularly and 310 where they both drink regularly. But now we're starting to see a few more cases where husbands are the only ones who drink regularly or wives are the only ones who drink regularly. But we still see a pretty strong effect where there's more people who are concordant than there are discordant. When we look at heavier drinking, this number gets even less obvious. So now most of the concordance is driven by this neither category. So we've got 503 couples where neither partner drinks heavily. 35 were wife only, 77 were husband only, and only 25 couples where both do. So you might be tempted to say this shows that they're not actually concordant for heavy drinking status. But if you take into account base rates of heavy drinking in the population, you would expect way fewer than 25 couples where both partners were heavy drinkers, right? So it is more than you would expect to see based on base rates. But again, it's not a huge effect. Then we also have frequent intoxication, and it's a similar thing there. Only 12 couples where both report frequent intoxication. But again, that's more than you would expect to find based on the frequency of frequent intoxication in the population, right? So again, let's assume that only about 10% of the population actually engages in frequent intoxication. Well, if there are 10% of husbands and 10% of wives, you shouldn't have roughly 10% of the couples in this sample where both do, right? So that's more common than would be expected by chance. There is a tendency to be concordant. Overall, you can see the concordance for alcohol use and regular drinking, but heavier drinking and frequent intoxication, you really have to take into account base rates in the population. So, what do you think? What effect will drinking have on their relationships? If you remember our previous video, we looked at the effect that having a relatively undesirable personality trait might have on relationships. What do you think heavy drinking will do to people's relationships? If one partner is a heavy drinker, there tend to be relationship problems. But what if both partners are heavy drinkers? Are they better off? Are they worse off? About the same? We're going to talk here about the drinking partnership. The very first data that I'm going to show you come from a sample of newlywed couples. We're looking at marital satisfaction and alcohol discrepancies. So here we're looking at the difference between how much husbands drink and how much wives drink. Here's husband's marital satisfaction on the left and wives' marital satisfaction on the right. And what we're going to see here is at this 0 point, that's where their amount or their frequency of consumption is equal. When this is positive, husbands drink more than wives. When it's negative, wives drink more than husbands. And then it's the opposite over here when wives drink more than husbands and when husbands drink more than wives. We'll take a look at what this means. This is the picture directly from the article. We see that there is this quadratic effect. People are happiest when they drink roughly the same amount. They become less happy the more that they outdrink their partner, and they become less happy the more that their partner outdrinks them. And then we see the same thing for wives. So wives are also happier when their husbands drink about the same amount as them. When they drink more than their husbands, they're less happy. And when their husbands drink more than them, they're less happy. So overall, we see that greater discrepancies are associated with lower relationship satisfaction. But there's also evidence that discrepancies in drinking can lead to differences in the rate of divorce. So here we're looking at those same newlywed couples, but now we're looking over 9 years. And each point on these lines is a given year. This is year zero or wave one, year two. They had a couple of gaps because of funding. This is year four, again, some more gaps. This is year seven and year nine. And so we're looking here at the cumulative divorce rate. Okay, so for our non heavy drinkers, we can see that as time goes on, more and more of them get divorced, as you would expect. By wave six or year nine, only about 30% of them have gotten divorced. If we look at concordant heavy drinkers, so that's couples where both partners are heavy drinkers, they're not significantly different from the non heavy drinkers. But if we look at discrepant couples where either the husband or the wife drinks heavily and their partner does not, we see that they are considerably more likely to get divorced. In this case, nearly 60% for discrepant heavy drinking wives and about 45% for discrepant heavy drinking husbands. Right, so, in summary, they found that discrepant drinkers are more likely to get divorced. So, if both partners drink heavily, that's this yellow line here, or if neither partner drinks heavily, this green line here, they're less likely to get divorced. It may be the drinking together that is safe. So, in this set of analyses, they're looking at couples in terms of drinking together, non drinkers, or drinking apart. So, they have heavy drinking and the both partners drink together, heavy drinking, and the partners drink apart on drinkers. Okay. And so in this case, this is husband marital satisfaction over here and wife marital satisfaction over here. In both of these cases, you can see that for everyone, marital satisfaction goes down over time. That's just the way it is in all newlywed couples. Unfortunately, over time, marital satisfaction plummets. Hopefully, it will eventually level off and you'll maintain a certain level of happiness at some point there. But there is a honeymoon period after which people become less happy with their relationships. So everyone shows that decrease here. But if you look at the people who drink together, they show that decrease to much less of an extent than people who drink apart. I believe the effect here was not significant for husbands, but it is significant for wives. So this black line here is the non-drinkers. And then this is what you might call the average or typical decrease in marital satisfaction. People who are both heavy drinkers, but they're drinking apart. Say the husband's drinking with his friends and the wife is drinking with her friends. Their satisfaction goes down to a much greater extent than heavy drinkers who drink together. And in fact, you can see these heavy drinkers who are drinking together even look happier than the non-drinkers, right? And so there is this tendency here for concordant drinking to be protective, but only if you're drinking together, right? So heavy drinking couples who drink apart are not protected, right? And then finally, we have another study here, and this one was actually in dating relationships looking on a daily basis. On days when the partner is drinking apart from them, they show relatively more negative partner behaviors, no matter how much the partner drank, whether it's low consumption or high consumption. But when they drank with their partner, they reported much fewer negative behaviors when they were both drinking heavily together. So again, even at the daily level and looking at dating partners instead of married partners, drinking with the partner is protective, but drinking apart is not. And so one question that you might have here, does this mean that all couples should start drinking heavily together? No, of course not, right? That's not what we're saying. We're talking about correlations here. We're saying that among those couples who do drink heavily and they happen to drink heavily together, they're experiencing different relationship functions than couples who are drinking apart or couples who aren't drinking. really, what we think is going on here has more to do with intimacy and spending time with your partner. So we saw that concordant heavy drinking couples tend to stay together and they tend to be happier in their relationships. But that was only the case if they were drinking together. So it's not the alcohol use that's doing it, it's drinking the alcohol with your partner. We could probably say the same thing about bowling, right? So couples who bowl together are more likely to stay together than couples who bowl apart, right? Or maybe even something like couples who go hiking together are more likely to stay together and are happier together than couples who go hiking apart, right? There's something about engaging in activities together that is protective. But it is worth considering that there may be some additional effect of alcohol. There is some question about, are there physiological effects, for example, that alcohol might play in affecting people's relationships? And so that's a question for future research.